What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, Shaka Antoine, and today is going to be off-season project number 2, Canal Bike. But today, as you can see, I have a very special guest with me today, my youngest daughter, Savannah. Say hi to the fisherman, Savannah.
Hi, fisherman.
All right, well, what we're going to be going over today is how I set up my bike to fish on the canal. Now, I know, yes, the style of bike is canal bike. However, it's not just for the canal. This type of setup on your bike, you can use it to fish practically anywhere where you can actually ride your bike. I would love to do a slightly different setup, which is to be used on basically any place that does not have 4x4 access. I would love to. However, that kind of requires riding your bike on the sand requires slightly larger tires. They do make a style of bike for that. However, right now I do not have that style of bike. Right now I have a Trek 3700, and I do already have a pretty decent setup. But again, this is off season, and this is off season project number 2. So what I'm going to be adding to my canal setup is 2 things. Number 1, I'm going to be adding the 2 extra rod holders for 2 reasons. Number 1 reason is I already have 2 rod holders on the bike, and which I use for my plugging and jigging rod. All right, now what I would like to add to that for the 2018 season is at least 1 more holder for jigging up and catching, I should say, mackerel. Here in the Northeast and along Long Island, the norm for using live baits, which would be bunker primarily, is to snag and drop them. You put a treble hook on, a weighted treble hook, you cast out, you snag the bunker, and you drop it down, waiting for a fish to come along, and that's called snag and drop.
Daddy,
however, on the canal, it's very, well, slight. I wouldn't say very different, but it's slightly different. You cannot necessarily catch herring and use that for bait. So what is used is mackerel, and the way that they do that, or we do that up there, is basically you catch the mackerel first using a sabiki rig. Right, you jig it up. Once you have a few, or 1 or whatever, you put them up, you get them up, and you use a single hook. I like to use a 7-knot octopus hook or gamakatsu, either one will work. Put it in the mackerel's mouth. You cast that out, and you wait for a fish to attack that mackerel. And those hits are pretty aggressive, and it's another method that does work. I'm a type of fisherman that likes to give the fish what they want when they want it, and I don't just stick to plugs. So if the time arises, and the fish are feeding on the mackerel, live mackerel, that does happen, then the thing to do would be to catch the mackerel and go live mackerel, right? That's right.
My daddy is
so basically, yeah. So I'm going to be adding another rod holder to my my basket, and another reason why I'm adding some more rod holders is, I typically go to the canal alone. That's just, hey, I don't mind going alone, but I'm the type of person that I also like to have company, and oftentimes if the person I'm going with, one of my like-minded fishermen, if they did not drive, they ride along with me, right? So now, if they already don't have a canal bike, then that kind of leaves me with, okay, should I even take my bike or not? Because my fishing buddy doesn't have one. But if I'm going with a fishing buddy that actually has a bike that's not quite set up for the canal yet, at least he has a bike, but he's going to need to put his rod somewhere. So I put it on my bike so we can definitely ride around the canal and catch these fish. Some questions I get asked is, do I need a canal bike? Do I need to take a bike up there? That answer is both yes and no. You know why that is, Savannah? All right, I'll tell you. The reason why is on the Canal, they say your bike is your boat. All right. Let's say you pull up to a spot and nothing's really going on right there, but you can see down the way that, oh, they're blitzing down there. How are you going to get there? You're going to get back in your car. You can do that. You get back in your car. You ride where you think the bike might be. You know, there is most likely a lot close by, but just in case there isn't, you got to guess and gauge where that bite is taking place. That happens way too much here on Long Island. You know, the fish are moving fast. You don't feel like walking. If you're fishing a non 4x4 access spot, then you got to get in the car. But on the Canal, it's very different. It's very resourceful if you have a bike with you, so that you can just ride to it and be right up on top of the action, right? So that's the you know, that is an advantage to having a bike. Now, if you don't have a bike already, then you'll just have to do that. Exactly. You'll have to drive. You got that exactly right. So, I mean, you have to gauge where the action is. You know, go to a lot. The good thing is that there are no permits required at this time on the Canal. So and there's plenty of parking. You just go where you think the action might be, and then get out, hop out, and you go from there. As if you don't have a Canal bike. So that answers that question. So in a little bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the materials, what I'm using to add those extra 2 holders. That's going to hold my mackerel setup. And just just in case, I like the basket to look really nice and even. I don't want to have just 3 rod holders. I'd rather just put the other one to make it look all nice. That's preference. And again, just in case I am with someone that has a very similar setup to me, rolling with 3 rods or 2, whatever, I'll just be able to put my fishing buddy's rod on my basket. Okay, so let's go right to that segment right now. I'm going to show you my setup and the setup currently, and the process of putting everything else on the basket. Okay. All right, that's my setup from last year. Just 2 rod holders on the basket. What I did here is I took 30 inches of PVC pipe, cut it into 2, and I just cut 1 notch in each of them to hold the rods. And these are the hose clamps that I like to use. Pretty simple. You just turn the black knob to tighten them. Put 1 on each tube, and you're good to go. Okay, fellas, so I'm just going to walk you through my Canal bike setup. All right, give it a quick walk around. That's my basket. All right, so the second thing that I added for this season is these notches here in my tubes. You put those notches in there so that when your rod goes into it, it sits in there nice and flush. It's not moving all around and making all this noise and hitting your other rods or hitting anyone else's rods. So I didn't do this last year, so I'm doing it this year just to kind of be a little more aesthetic. I could have cleaned that up a little bit, which I will. And you can also put some rubber over the top so it doesn't scratch up your reels, which I'll probably do a little bit later once I find something that I like. All right, and these here are my straps. If I am keeping a fish, or if I just want to secure any gear to my basket, I'll do that with those straps. I just couldn't resist not getting those. Right? And one other very important thing with building a Canal bike is selecting a basket that best fits your bike, or selecting a bike that best fits your basket. And I'll show you what I mean about that. This is my second Canal bike. The first one got stolen, unfortunately, so I was able to pick this one up. It's a Trek 3700 for $50, believe it or not. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to spend that much money. You can find a nice deal. Now this basket doesn't fit this bike so well. As you can see here, I have a hose clamp keeping the top bracket to the rear fork or neck, whatever part that's called. The previous bike I had, this clamp here comes with another section that used to clamp to this piece right here. You have one clamp on this side, one bracket on this side, one bracket on this side, and it held it right in place. Unfortunately, this pipe here is much thicker than the one I had before, so that won't work. So the quick fix was to just get a hose clamp and clamp that bad boy right on there. The other mountain point is, I don't know if that's gonna come out. Let me see. Yeah, right here. All right. Now my other bike, I could have just taken out the nut here, and it went through right there. But this bike has quick release hubs, and quick release hubs doesn't quite work best with these here. So this little bolt here is the only hole on my frame that's threaded. So I had to thread this bolt through there just to be able to lock it on there. But I gotta come up with something else a little bit different to more secure it, because when I put this on my bike rack and I'm driving up, I don't want this here coming out and the next thing you know, I'll lose my basket. So I'll have to find a nut and bolt system that's a little bit better than that. You can see here down in there, got a little bit of a space issue. If I go too far in, it will be touching my sprocket. So that's about as far as it can go. Way more space on the other side, but again, you can't make it go in too far. So I will have a nut and bolt system shortly. All right, so as long as you got those two mounting points, you know, it should work for this style of bike. The style of bike that it doesn't work for, or at least I find that it's harder to mount, is one that has a full suspension. I have front suspension on the fork, but you know, you have some bikes that have a rear suspension. Now I find that, you know, it's a lot harder to mount those type of this type of basket with a bike that has a rear suspension. You know, it calls for a little more ingenuity. I have seen people bolt up a bracket there that goes to this, but to me that's a little cumbersome, because remember, it's a suspended bike, so therefore, you know, you're going to have your whole basket moving around, so it needs to be on a stationary item. All right, moving on over to here, this item right here. This bad boy is an eel jug made by my boy up there, Jason Platt. All right, he sells these things, makes them and sells them. These things are wonderful. Mine's a little beat up, it's a little used. You know, I put my eels in there and my eel jakes. Just put a little ice or bubbleweed in there as directed by Jason, and you're good to go. And this thing is like, I love what he did with it. I love it. It's high quality stuff. Never mind the dirt. Like I said, I use it. But this eel jug is serious, man. You can mount it to your belt if you wanted to. I have it mounted to my bike with a D-ring, and that's where I put my eels. All right, I'll plug his website and everywhere else where you can get that. Another feature is the kickstand. You don't typically use your kickstand when you're on the canal. There's several reasons for that. It could fall. Your bike is at high risk of falling over if you use the stock kickstand. So what I came up with is I use another PCV pipe that is basically a sand spike, and I just lean the bike. I put the other mount under the seat, rest it on the seat, and then dig that in the dirt, and it's not going anywhere. Major problem up there, if it's windy, you know, you don't secure your bike properly, the wind will knock it over, taking, you know, possibly breaking a rod or a reel or losing plugs. Nobody wants to do that, right? So the best thing to do is just, you know, get a kickstand system like that, and that takes care of that problem. Other thing that you can do on your bike is a light. I don't particularly like to use too many lights, but you can, because when it's dark up there, it's dark, and the only lights out are on the light poles. And if you're the type that you need a light, you need to see where you're going. Me, I let my eyes adjust. I'll use a red light if I need to. then you may want to install a light on your bike. But that's basically the makeup of my bike. Oh, there's one more very item that's, you know, simple, but it just gets to me. You might say, why does he have a plastic bag on his seat? Well, two things. I don't want my seat getting wet if it's raining. I don't want my behind to feel soggy if it got wet. So I just put a bag over it, and that solves that problem for me. Especially what happened to it before also is if your seat rips, you tape it up, put a bag over it, doesn't look so bad, right? So that's basically it. That's my Canal bike. I hope you enjoyed. I'll definitely look for your comments or any suggestions or any questions. All right. Alright guys, well that is how I like to set up my Canal bike. Alright, now that basically concludes the off-season project number 2, Canal bike. I must say I had a blast making my first video with my firstborn here, my youngest daughter, Savannah. Savannah, it was such a great time having you. Thank you for being such a great sport, right? Anything else you would like to say?
Subscribe, like, and share. Give us a thumbs up. Only, not a thumbs down. No.
No thumbs down, please.
And if you like our videos, subscribe every time.
Peace out, YouTube, and God bless.